How does this cougar work exactly? I assume I should be able to see it somehow, because I guess that's why I want to be here in the open, so I can see it coming. Can't see anything now, though. Let's have some food, because I'm kind of losing well fed here, closely. And let's have some water as well. I'll get back for looking. Uh-oh. Oh, what was that? Oh, God! Oh, my God. Holy... Oh, my God. Get my clothes. They got ripped off. Oh, my God. Hello, fellow survivors. What you just saw was the first time I ever encountered a cougar. Which was in early access, which I had the privilege of being part of. And the cougar is now live and part of the Long Dark after years of waiting. And let me tell you, it is a ferocious predator. It is an opponent you do not want to mess with unless you are absolutely prepared for it. And in this video, we are going to go through what the cougar is and how it works. We're not going to break it down to its complete details, but you can use this video as a guide to understand exactly what the cougar is, how it works, and how you can, if you really want to, defeat it. Because it can be defeated and it gives you some good rewards if you do. So let's get to it. Before we say anything else, you need to know that the cougar is terrifying and brutal. You should not try and face the cougar at all on any difficulty unless you are absolutely certain you want to do so, because this is a run ender. It does tremendous damage and you have a very small window opportunity to actually kill it. And if you fail to kill it, it will just keep coming back and kill you. And the affliction it gives you can also kill you. So only really face the cougar if you have to, or if you feel like you are prepared to either take it down or survive if you fail. Otherwise, I suggest leaving the cougar alone. And fortunately, the cougar is something you can choose to disable. So if you don't really like the idea of the cougar, you can turn it off and you can just play your game without ever worrying about it. If you have it on, you only really have the cougar as a threat if you stay too long into a region. So let's get into that and how it works. So the way it works is that if you spend too long time in one single region, the cougar starts taking an interest in you and it starts approaching your region. At this point, I should point out that the cougar is not actually a physical animal somewhere in the world. You cannot go around looking for the cougar and find it because it's nowhere to be found. It's an event that triggers when it eventually wants to hunt you. Now, how long it takes for the cougar to take an interest in you takes a little while. On lower difficulties, it's pretty much 30 days. So if you go to one region and stay there for 30 days, this cougar starts taking an interest in you. On the interlope, this is 20 days, but even 20 days is still a long time. So you have quite a lot of time to do what you want to in a region. However, if the timer goes all that way, the cougar starts taking an interest in you and you get a message saying the cougar is encroaching on your territory. And that gives you a timer as well that tells you when the cougar arrives. If you leave at this point, then the cougar won't follow you to the next region. It will never really get there or anything. However, if you stay in the region, eventually the cougar will enter the region and you'll then get a message that the cougar region is now active. You can also see in the bottom left that there's a red cougar symbol, and that means the cougar is active in your region and is actively hunting or stalking you. There'll also be music, so when you go outside, you'll hear this music show up. The cougar presence is generally ominous, so you have a sense of unease going around. And to make it even scarier, the cougar has a lot of noises. So if the cougar is in your territory and you go around, you will hear lots of cougar noises suggesting that it's nearby. Sounds like this. Just tune into your ear and listen closely to this ambient noise. Now the Cougar can attack you at any given time when you're outdoors. It doesn't matter what kind of sounds you hear or where you are or how long it's been. If the Cougar is in your region, it can attack you at any given point. And if it attacks you once and you survive, it can still attack you again shortly after. I once got attacked with just 2 hours in between, so be careful. You are not safe at any given time. And you will not see the Cougar approach regardless of how vigilant you are. You can only hear the Cougar in your environment, but you cannot tell when it's going to attack. And now, speaking of the attack itself is brutal. It is really, really tough. You will survive a Cougar attack, provided your health is good enough, but you will end with very low health. And if you get the affliction, which is called severe lacerations, you are in dire straits. You can end up surviving a Cougar attack with multiple bleeds, so you're losing health fast, and also you have an infection risk as well. And if you are bleeding after the attack, you can also attract nearby walls, so that's an extra layer of difficulty as well. If you survive all of this stuff, the affliction lasts for about 3 days. And the thing about this affliction is that it severely reduces your overall condition, and it has the risk of introducing bleeds while you are recovering. So if you sleep for too long, you can actually die from that, because a bleed can happen while you sleep. So that means that you need to spend some very careful next 3 days recovering from the Cougar attack. It is a really, really brutal attack. So that's why I mean you should avoid the Cougar if you can. Now, how do you avoid it or kill it? Well, we'll do the killing thing last. But there are ways to avoid it. First of all, if the Cougar does enter your region and you leave the region, if you stay out of that region for 10 days, the Cougar will lose interest and leave you alone. And then you can safely go back to that region. The other thing you can do is to destroy the Cougar's nest. Now, the Cougar's nest is just one place in the entire world. It will change from each run where the nest is, and it's going to be somewhere that's kind of like in a rocky terrain, that sort of thing. And it's quite hard to spot because it's quite small. However, if you have music on, which I recommend generally, the music tends to change when you approach the Cougar nest, like this. If you hear that music, it suggests that you are near the nest and you can destroy it. And if you do find a nest and you have 3 noisemakers on you, you can throw the noisemakers in and they will destroy the nest and reset the Cougar timer effectively. So if you have a Cougar threat looming, you can then go to the nest, destroy it, and then safely go back to your region and reset the timer. Of course, there's a bit of a track. So let's say, for example, that you are in Desolation Point and the Cougar threat is imminent, and maybe the Cougar nest in your run is in Hushed River Valley. Well, you're going to have to make your way all the way to Hushed River Valley, destroy it with 3 noisemakers, and then you can make your way back to a Desolation Point, and then the Cougar timer has reset, which will be 30 days if it's on lower difficulty. So it depends a little bit how you want to do it. It depends on the region you're in and how you want to approach it. But leaving the region or destroying the nest will eventually reset the timer, and you can safely return. And the game will tell you all of this with a status screen that says how long is left of this. Now, there's a third way to do it, and that is, of course, to kill the Cougar. To kill the Cougar, you must have a weapon, which is either the revolver, the rifle, or the bow, and all of those 3 can kill it. The bow is by far the hardest, so an interlope with the Cougar is a major threat, but on the lower difficulties it's a bit easier. The way it works is this. First, you get attacked by the Cougar, which in itself is a devastating thing. After the Cougar attack is over, you enter a sort of dazed state. Your vision becomes blurry, it's hard to see anything, and things happen in slow motion. However, in this state, you get to choose a weapon and you can look around and see if you can find the Cougar. If you do find the Cougar, you have one shot and one shot only to hit the Cougar with your weapon of choice. Now, in my testing that I did, if you use the rifle, it's not too hard to hit the Cougar, in my opinion, as long as you can find it, because it is quite dodgy. And the revolver is a bit harder, but it's okay. So if you're playing on lower difficulties, it's not too difficult to kill it if you have a rifle. But, you know, you could miss or you could fail to find it because it's quite an evasive animal. It runs away a lot, so it's quite hard to hit this shot in general. But on Interloper, or if you just choose the bow, it's very difficult because the bow has bullet drop, so it's a bit harder to aim with the bow and hit the Cougar. So on Interloper, you gotta make sure that you got your bow skills in and that you're ready to survive the Cougar attack if you miss. But if you do kill the Cougar, you can harvest it. If you harvest it, you get Cougar meat, which is just regular meat pretty much. It's not used for anything specifically that I know of. Now, if you do kill it, you get about 4 kilos or so of Cougar meat. You get guts and you get a Cougar hide. In this footage, it looks like a moose hide, but that's because it's early access footage. But the Cougar hide can be cured. And if you cure it, you can make the Cougar head wrap, which is basically a hat. And this hat is very strong, much stronger than any hat in the game. And it makes you nice and cozy and warm. So it's worth doing it for that. However, there's a second thing. If you harvest the hide, you also get a Cougar claw. And this claw can be combined by forging to make a Cougar knife. And let me tell you, this knife, while I don't know the details of how it works, this knife is absolutely a beast in struggles. On Stalker, in a test I did, and I was able to kill 4 wolves in a row with this knife in struggles. It's really, really strong. I believe the way it works is that it basically ends struggles faster. It's a very strong knife. So if you do manage to kill the Cougar, you get some really, really good rewards. But it is very risky. So that's the Cougar for you. The Cougar will encroach on your territory if you stay there for too long, but you can avoid that by just leaving the territory and coming back later, or you can destroy its nest, or you can kill it. In my opinion, the Cougar, it will be a very menacing threat, but on average, I don't think you're going to encounter it very much, even if you enable it, because I think most people don't spend that much time in one region. You tend to go into the region, loot it, stay a little bit, make a base, and then leave. And sure, you could stay for a long enough time to trigger the Cougar, but usually most of us leave and do something else, or you have an excuse to leave, if anything. So it shouldn't be too hard to avoid the Cougar, even if you have it enabled. But if you do have it enabled and you do wish to face the Cougar, I cannot stress enough, you have to be prepared for it. This is by far the most dangerous animal in the game. Nothing comes close. A wolf attack that for some reason you can't defeat, that kills you in one go, sure, that's deadly, but the Cougar is absolutely menacing. You have no way to protect yourself. You cannot see it coming. It just jumps on you at a random moment when you're out and exposed. And if you are in an unfortunate situation as well, maybe you're in a bad spot, you don't know how to get back, maybe even it's a blizzard, who knows, you're in a really dire straits. It does tremendous damage to you. The affliction is devastating, and the worst part is, if the Cougar attacks you and you survive and you don't kill the Cougar, you're going to have to spend some time now recovering from the affliction and the damage it did. And while you're doing this, the Cougar is still in the region and it's still going to hunt you. So it's a very devastating threat and can easily end your run. So I do not joke around when I say, please be careful when you deal with the Cougar, because it is really, really dangerous. And before we end it, just a little thing. I have several series on my channel, and one of them is my Road to 500 Days series, and we are now on part 62 coming out, and the Cougar is being added, and I am going to try and kill it on my main run, which is close to day 200, and let's see if we can do that. So tune into that if you want to see that. However, a little shout out to a streamer called Tomasina, who you may be familiar with, and if you're not, you should go check her out, because Tomasina, she was also one of the playtesters for the Cougar, and she has pledged that she's going to be the first player on Interloper to kill the Cougar when this patch came live. So if you want to see that, check out Tomasina's channel and see if she can manage to pull off to kill a Cougar on Interloper. And let me tell you, it's really, really hard. Let's see if Tomasina can do it. Check her out. That said, that was the Cougar guide. It's fantastic. It's a brilliant addition to the game. It's really, really good, and it is terrifying. And if you do decide to face it, make sure you take precautions. Be prepared for it. And if you're not, leave or find the nest, because it's not worth it. It is way too dangerous. Okay, see you later, survivors. Bye-bye.